They had been together for 40 years, but she never knew her husband had a secret.
Hello everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
Family and close friends gathered to celebrate Anna and Michael's 40th wedding anniversary, a memorable milestone in their lives. Michael, with his graying hair and warm smile, stood before everyone to give a speech. He raised his glass of wine, his deep and steady voice resonating, creating a reflective atmosphere. Over the past 40 years, nothing in my life has made me happier than having Anna by my side. We've experienced ups and downs together, beautiful moments and challenging times. I want to thank Anna, the most wonderful woman, for being with me throughout this journey. The crowd erupted in applause, cheers filled the room, and Anna blushed slightly. She smiled gently, her eyes full of love as she looked at Michael. But suddenly, a knock at the door interrupted the joyous moment. The door opened, and Isabella appeared. Isabella, with sharp eyes and a confident demeanor, stepped in, holding a carefully wrapped gift box. All eyes turned to her, as her appearance was unexpected. For years, she and Anna had not shared a good relationship. "Michael, happy 40th anniversary," Isabella said, a sly smile playing on her lips. "I brought you a special gift." Anna and Michael exchanged a brief, confused glance, but Michael maintained his composure. "Thank you, Isabella. You didn't have to go to the trouble." "Oh, but this gift is very special. I think the whole family should see it." Isabella placed the box on the table, drawing everyone's curiosity. Reluctantly, Anna, not wanting to spoil the party atmosphere, opened the box. Inside was a white envelope. She slowly opened it and pulled out a photograph. In an instant, the smile on Anna's face froze. The photograph showed a young Michael standing next to a beautiful woman and a boy about 3 years old. The room filled with murmurs as all eyes turned toward Michael, curiosity and unease in their gazes. The atmosphere grew heavy. "Michael," Anna said, her voice trembling. "What is this?" Michael stood frozen, his face pale, unable to speak. Meanwhile, Isabella broke the oppressive silence. "Let me help you explain, Michael. This is Lucy, your first love, and Daniel your son with her." The murmurs grew louder. Raphael, Anna and Michael's eldest son, could no longer contain his anger. He slammed his hand on the table, startling everyone. "Father! Is what she said true?" Raphael shouted, his eyes burning with rage. Michael didn't answer. He simply bowed his head. The entire room seemed to sink into a suffocating silence. Anna stood there, her hands trembling, tears streaming down her face. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. "Isabella, why would you do this?" Anna asked, her voice choked with emotion. "Why?" Isabella shrugged, her gaze cold. "Because I thought you deserved to know the truth. Michael has deceived you for 40 years. He was never truly yours." Raphael stepped toward Michael, his eyes red with anger. "Father, I need an explanation. How could you hide this from Mother and us all these years?" Michael still said nothing. His head hung low, his expression filled with guilt. Raphael turned to Isabella, shouting angrily, "What do you gain from this?" Isabella smirked. "Gain? I just couldn't stand the pretense anymore. My sister, Lucy, would have lived a happy life if Michael hadn't abandoned her." Anna couldn't take it anymore. She fled the room, tears streaming down her face like a river. Michael made a move to follow her, but Isabella blocked his path. "Not so fast, Michael," Isabella said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You haven't finished explaining yourself to everyone." Raphael brushed past Isabella, his fiery gaze fixed on his father. "Don't let Mother face this alone. If you truly love her, give her an honest explanation." Michael watched Anna's retreating figure, his heart heavy. The room was now filled only with silence and the weight of judgmental gazes. What was meant to be a joyous celebration had turned into an unimaginable nightmare. In the previously cozy atmosphere of the party, the air had now become suffocating. Anna had just stormed out, and Michael remained rooted in place, as if frozen by Isabella's undeniable accusations. Family and friends could not hide their curious and bewildered expressions. Raphael couldn't stand the silence a moment longer. He stood up abruptly, his eyes blazing with fury. "Father, speak. Is she telling the truth? Who is Lucy? Who is Daniel? And why has Mother been kept in the dark about this for 40 years? Michael took a deep breath, but he couldn't find the words to speak. His silence only fueled Raphael's growing anger. "So it's true. You really betrayed Mom," he shouted, his voice echoing through the room. Isabella stood there, arms crossed, a cold smile on her lips. "That's right, Raphael. Your father not only betrayed your mother, but he also kept a secret that we all deserve to know. Lucy, his first love, is my sister, and Daniel, the child in the photo, is his son." "Shut up, Isabella!" Michael suddenly yelled, but his voice lacked the strength to overpower what Isabella had just revealed. Isabella raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. "Oh, Michael, are you still trying to deny it? Do you think staying silent will make everything disappear? It won't. It's time everyone knew the truth." Raphael shoved his chair back aggressively and stormed toward his father. "Why, Dad? Why did you hide this from Mom? Why did you hide it from us? If you ever loved her, how could you do this to her?" Michael bowed his head, unable to respond. Isabella seized the moment to continue, her voice cold and cutting. "I'll tell you, Raphael, because your father probably doesn't have the courage to. When he was young, Michael and Lucy were deeply in love. But for selfish reasons, he left her, abandoning my sister to raise their child alone. She endured loneliness and hardship until tragedy struck." "What tragedy?" Raphael asked, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. Isabella shrugged, her tone quieter but still dripping with bitterness. "She died in a car accident. Michael knew about it, but instead of facing the consequences, he chose to bury everything in the past. Daniel, their son, was placed in an orphanage and later adopted by another family." The room fell silent, heavy with shock from Isabella's words. Raphael clenched his fists, his voice trembling with anger. "So you abandoned a child? A child who is your own flesh and blood?" Michael raised his head, his voice weak but filled with pain. "Raphael, you don't understand. It wasn't an easy choice. I thought it was the best thing for everyone." "The best?" Raphael spat through gritted teeth. "The best was to let Mom live in deception for 40 years. The best was to let your own son grow up without knowing who his father was." Isabella let out a dry laugh, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "Raphael, you're right. Everything your father did is unforgivable. But you should also know that your mother is a victim in all of this. She deserves the truth." Michael glared at Isabella, his voice growing firmer. "Isabella, you have no right to say these things. This is not your business." "Not my business?" Isabella laughed bitterly, her tone mocking. "Michael, this is entirely my business. My sister died because of your selfishness, and Daniel grew up without a father because you were too afraid to face your responsibilities. I think I have every right to bring the truth to light." Raphael turned to Isabella, his face a mix of anger and suspicion. "And what about you? What do you want from this? What are you planning to gain?" Isabella shrugged, as if she didn't care about anyone's opinions. "I don't want anything. I just want the truth to be known. Can't you see, Raphael? This family is built on lies. Your mother has the right to know everything." Raphael stepped back, running his hands through his hair. "Mom! Oh God, what will happen to Mom when she knows all this?" he whispered, his voice heavy with anguish. Michael stepped toward his son, but Raphael held up a hand to stop him. "Don't touch me. You've destroyed everything. Everything I ever believed about this family, it was all a lie. Isabella folded her arms and leaned against the edge of the table, watching the chaotic scene with an inscrutable smile. Well, Michael, aren't you going to chase after Anna? I think you should explain things to her if you still can. Michael didn't respond to Isabella. He simply looked at Raphael, his eyes filled with despair. But Raphael turned away, striding quickly out of the room, leaving Michael to face the chaos he could no longer control. The room fell silent, leaving only the guests, who didn't dare say a word. Isabella scanned the room, her sharp eyes settling on Michael. See, Michael. That's the price of lies. Michael didn't reply. He sat down in a chair, his head bowed, his shoulders trembling as if he were about to cry. The pain in his heart was indescribable. The cold night wind blew through the olive trees outside the window, but Anna felt nothing. She sat on a bench in the small garden, her face streaked with tears. The shawl around her shoulders did little to keep her warm, but she didn't care. Her mind was consumed with the image of the photo. Isabella had revealed a photo that had shattered everything she'd ever believed. Inside the house, the soft music from the party had stopped, replaced by the murmurs of the guests. A few of Anna's close friends, like Teresa and Carmen, exchanged glances, unsure of what to do. Finally, Teresa, Anna's oldest friend, decided to go outside. Anna, Teresa said gently as she sat down beside her. Her voice was soft, as though she feared breaking her already fragile friend. Do you want to talk about it? Anna shook her head, trying to wipe away her tears but failing. Teresa, how can I talk about it? How can I face this truth? My whole life, it was all a lie. Teresa took Anna's hand in hers gently. Maybe Michael has his reasons, but I understand how you feel. This isn't easy to accept. Anna turned to look at Teresa, her eyes red and swollen. Reasons? Teresa, how could you think there's any reason good enough for Michael to hide this from me for 40 years? A child? Another family? Do you know how I feel? Like I was never enough for him. Teresa didn't know what else to say. The pain in Anna's words was overwhelming, and no answer could ease her suffering. Meanwhile, inside the house, Michael sat silently on the sofa, his gaze empty. The guests began leaving quietly, unwilling to involve themselves in the family's turmoil. Raphael paced back and forth, his fists clenched as though he wanted to punch something. Isabella stood in a corner, her smirk still lingering on her face. What are you going to do now? Raphael finally stopped pacing and turned sharply toward Michael. Mom is out there, devastated by your lies. Don't you think you should go out and say something to her? Michael lifted his head, his anguished eyes meeting his son's. You think I don't want to? But I don't even know where to start. Raphael let out a bitter laugh, his eyes filled with contempt. Don't know where to start? Then let me help you, start with the truth. Tell Mom everything you've been hiding all these years. Isabella stepped forward, her cold voice cutting through the room. Raphael, you're so naive. Your father hasn't told the truth in 40 years, so why would he start now? He's only good at keeping secrets. Shut up. Raphael shouted, his eyes blazing with anger. You've done enough damage already. This is my family's business, not yours. Isabella smirked, her tone dripping with mockery. Your family? Raphael, which family are you talking about? Because clearly, your father has another family out there. Daniel is his son too, and I think you'd better start getting used to that idea. Raphael turned back to Michael, his voice trembling with fury. Is that true, Dad? Is she right? Did you really abandon Daniel, abandon Mom and us, and then live as if nothing happened? Michael sighed, his voice so low it was almost inaudible. I didn't abandon anyone. It's not as simple as that. Not as simple. Raphael screamed, losing control of his emotions. 40 years of hiding an earth-shattering secret, and you dare say it's not simple. Michael remained silent, offering no defense. Isabella stood there, her gaze sweeping over Michael like that of a victor savoring her win. But she didn't realize that Raphael, too, was burning with rage at the truth she had brought to light. Meanwhile, outside in the garden, Anna remained seated in silence. She recalled the beautiful memories of the past 40 years, the trips with Michael, the times he held her hand and promised to love her forever. All of it now felt like a lie. She didn't know how to face her marriage anymore. Teresa gently wrapped an arm around Anna's shoulder and softly said, "Anna, maybe Michael truly loves you. But I think you need him to tell you the truth. If he can't do that, you don't have to endure this." Anna turned to Teresa, her eyes filled with pain. "Teresa, I've spent my whole life trusting him. If everything I believed in was a lie, then what do I have left?" In that moment, Michael stepped into the garden, his shoulders weighed down by guilt. He saw Anna and Teresa from a distance but didn't dare approach. He knew that any words he said now would only make things worse. He stood there silently, watching the woman he had loved for 40 years sit there, broken because of his mistakes. Anna lifted her head, her gaze meeting Michael's. She said nothing, but her eyes held a pain Michael wished he would never have to see. Teresa stood up, placing a reassuring hand on Anna's shoulder before turning to Michael. "If you can't tell her the truth, don't come near her." Michael bowed his head, saying nothing. He knew he had lost Anna's trust and perhaps her love as well. The house was now silent, illuminated only by the dim light from the living room. The last of the guests had left after the party was completely ruined by Isabella's shocking revelations. Raphael slammed the door shut after seeing the last guest out, then turned to his father with a cold, piercing gaze. "Are you going to say anything, or are you going to keep staying silent like you've been all night?" Raphael asked, his voice laced with disdain. Michael sat on the sofa, holding a glass of wine but not drinking it. He didn't look at his son, instead lowering his head as if searching for answers within himself. "Raphael, I don't know where to begin." Raphael cut him off, his voice breaking with anger. "Don't tell me you don't know. The truth is you lied to Mom, you lied to this entire family for 40 years. And you don't even have the courage to face it." Isabella, still leaning against the doorway, smirked. "Raphael, your father is exactly that kind of man. Afraid of responsibility, running from consequences. Why else do you think he kept this hidden all these years?" "Enough, Isabella!" Michael shouted, his voice echoing through the room. For the first time all night, he displayed anger. "You don't understand anything. Don't think you have the right to judge my life. Don't understand." Isabella stepped forward, her eyes cold and sharp, as if piercing through Michael. "You destroyed my sister's life, left your own son abandoned, and now you've shattered this family. I understand you all too well, Michael." Raphael raised a hand to silence Isabella. "You don't need to say anything else. This is between my father and my mother." Michael sighed and stood up from the sofa. "Raphael, do you think I don't feel regret? I've lived with this pain for 40 years. Lucy, she was my first love. When she died, I lost everything. I didn't have the strength to face the past, so I chose to bury it. And you thought that was the right thing to do?" Raphael asked, his voice dripping with contempt. "You thought building a new family on a foundation of lies was the best solution?" Michael didn't answer. He turned away, his eyes fixed on the window, where the pale moonlight shone over the garden. He remembered the first time he met Lucy, how she stood by the piano, her gentle smile lighting up the room. Lucy had been everything to him, a first love he could never forget. But Lucy's death had not only taken away Michael's love but had also left behind a son he never had the chance to care for. Daniel, Lucy, and Michael's child, had been sent to an orphanage after his mother's death. Michael had searched but eventually had to give up when he learned Daniel had been adopted by another family. He convinced himself that it was for the best and that he should let the past rest. "I never meant to betray your mother," Michael said, his voice hoarse. "I love your mother, Raphael. But my love for Lucy was real too. I didn't know how to live with both." Raphael let out a bitter laugh. "And so you chose to live a lie. You didn't just betray Mom, you betrayed me, and you betrayed Daniel. Did you ever think about how we would feel?" Michael lowered his head, unable to reply. Raphael shook his head and turned away, unwilling to say anything more. Meanwhile, upstairs, Anna sat in her room with the door tightly shut. She sat on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down her face. The room that once felt like her safest haven now felt cold and empty. The image of Michael and Lucy in that photograph lingered in her mind, cutting into her heart like a blade. 40 years, Anna whispered, as if speaking to herself. 40 years living with someone I never really knew. All the promises, all the memories, they were all lies. A knock on the door startled her. "Anna, it's me, Teresa," came Teresa's gentle voice. "Do you want me to come in?" Anna didn't reply, but Teresa opened the door anyway and stepped inside. Her best friend approached and sat down next to her. "Anna, I know this is hard, but you can't keep it bottled up. You need to talk to Michael." Anna turned to Teresa, her eyes swollen and red from crying. "I can't, Teresa. I don't know what to say to him. How can I believe anything he says now?" Teresa took Anna's hand, her voice full of compassion. "I'm not asking you to forgive him right away. But you need to let him explain. You deserve to know the truth, no matter how painful it is." Anna didn't reply, only lowered her head. Teresa gently wrapped an arm around her shoulder, as if trying to lend her strength. Meanwhile, Michael sat downstairs in silence, lost in his own painful memories. Images of Lucy, Daniel, and Anna swirled through his mind like an old film on a loop. Michael knew he couldn't change the past, but now he wasn't sure if there was anything left to salvage in the present. The sky outside began to lighten, but the air in the house remained heavy with tension. Michael sat quietly on the sofa, his hands cradling his head as he tried to banish the chaotic thoughts swirling in his mind. Downstairs, Raphael paced back and forth, his eyes bloodshot from anger and lack of sleep. "Dad," Raphael suddenly stopped and turned to Michael. "I can't let things stay like this. You need to face Mom. If you don't, you're not just going to lose her, you'll lose me too." Michael lifted his head, his face weary. "Raphael, do you think I don't want to? I don't know what to say to fix all of this." "You don't know?" Raphael let out a bitter laugh, his voice dripping with disdain. "You've had 40 years to prepare for this day, and now you're telling me you don't know? How convenient." Isabella walked in from the kitchen, a cup of coffee in hand, her signature smirk still plastered on her face. "Raphael, what did you expect from your father? He's lived his whole life this way, always running, always lying. I'm just helping everyone see the truth. What do you know?" Raphael snapped at Isabella, his voice blazing with anger. "You did all of this just to satisfy your bitterness. You don't care about this family, and you certainly don't care about my mother." Isabella laughed coldly, her mocking tone echoing in the tense room. "This family? Raphael, this was never a real family. Do you think your mother was everything to your father? If she were, why did he keep Lucy and Daniel a secret for so many years?" Raphael stepped closer to Isabella, his eyes sharp as ice. "You don't need to say another word. This is between my parents, and I won't let you interfere anymore." "Let her speak, Raphael," Michael finally said, his voice breaking the long silence. "She's not entirely wrong. I've lived with lies, and now I'm paying the price for them." Raphael turned back to his father, the anger in his eyes replaced by deep disappointment. "So what are you going to do? Keep staying silent, or are you finally going to tell the whole truth?" Michael took a deep breath, as if summoning all the courage he had left. "I'll tell. But not to you or Isabella. I'll tell everything to your mother." "Let's hope it's not too late," Raphael replied coldly. He sat down on the chair, but the fire of anger still burned in his gaze. Meanwhile, upstairs, Anna sat at her dressing table, her eyes still red from crying all night. Teresa entered, carrying a cup of hot tea, and gently placed it on the table. "Anna, you need to eat something. You can't let yourself fall apart like this." Anna shook her head, her eyes fixed on the mirror in front of her. "Teresa, I don't want anything. I don't even know how to move forward. It feels like my whole world just crumbled." Teresa sat down beside her, taking her hand. "I understand. But Anna, you need to be strong. I think Michael is truly remorseful. Maybe you should let him tell you the truth. At the very least, you'll get answers." "Answers?" Anna turned to Teresa, her voice bitter. "What answers, Teresa? That he's loved another woman throughout our entire marriage. That everything between him and me was a lie." Teresa couldn't find the words to respond. Anna's pain was too immense, and nothing she said could ease it. At the same time, Michael stood up from the sofa, his eyes fixed on the staircase. "I'm going to talk to your mother," he said to Raphael. Raphael watched his father without saying a word. From the corner, Isabella raised an eyebrow, her expression clearly doubting that Michael could do anything other than make things worse. Michael climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavy with guilt. When he reached the door, he hesitated before lightly knocking. There was no response. "Anna, it's me," he said, his voice soft but laced with desperation. "I need to talk to you." Inside, Anna remained silent, unmoving. Teresa glanced at her, then stood up. "I'll leave you two to talk. You need to hear him out, Anna." Teresa left the room, passing Michael without a word. Michael stared at the partially open door for a moment, then gently pushed it open and stepped inside. Anna remained seated, not turning to look at him. "Anna," Michael began, his voice hoarse. "I know you don't want to see me, but I can't let things end like this without saying something." Anna didn't respond. Her gaze stayed fixed on the mirror, but Michael could see her eyes were brimming with tears. "I'm sorry, Anna," Michael continued. "I'm sorry for keeping the truth from you all these years. I don't know what else to say except that. I just hope you'll give me a chance to explain." Finally, Anna turned around, her eyes as cold and sharp as knives. "Explain? Michael, what is there to explain? That I was just a replacement for the woman you truly loved?" Michael took a deep breath, unable to reply. Anna's words cut through him like a blade. He knew she had every right to be angry, but the despair in her eyes hurt him more than anything else. Anna stood up, moving away from the chair to the window. The morning sunlight filtered through the olive trees outside, casting a soft glow on her anguished face. Michael stood motionless, not daring to approach. He knew that anything he said could make things worse. "You think an apology is enough?" Anna turned back, her voice a mix of anger and pain. "You think saying, 'I'm sorry,' will make me forget everything that's happened? 40 years, Michael. 40 years you kept such a massive secret from me." Michael bowed his head, his shoulders heavy with regret. "I didn't know what to do, Anna. When it happened, I was scared. I thought keeping everything hidden would be better for both of us. I didn't want to hurt you." Anna let out a laugh, but it was filled with bitterness. "Didn't want to hurt me? Did you ever think about how I would feel? Or were you only thinking about yourself, about how to avoid taking responsibility?" Michael started to say something, but Anna raised her hand to stop him. "Don't say another word, Michael. I don't want to hear anything from you right now." She quickly left the room, leaving Michael standing there, his heart feeling as though it had been ripped apart. Anna descended the stairs, where Raphael was sitting on a chair. He looked up as he saw his mother but said nothing. His eyes were full of concern and worry. "Are you okay, Mom?" Raphael asked softly. Anna didn't answer immediately. She looked at Raphael, and her expression softened slightly. "Son, I need some time. I'm going to leave for a while to think. Stay here and take care of your father." Raphael wanted to protest, but when he saw the determined look in his mother's eyes, he nodded. "Are you sure? I can come with you." Anna gave him a gentle smile, though it was laced with pain. "No, Raphael. I need to be alone. Please, trust me." She walked toward the door, and for the first time all night, Isabella looked on with curiosity. "Where are you going, Anna? Running away isn't going to solve anything." Anna stopped at the door and turned to Isabella, her gaze cold. "And you, Isabella, you've achieved your goal. But remember, life is not a game for you to manipulate as you please." Isabella raised an eyebrow but didn't respond. Anna stepped outside and closed the door behind her. She took a deep breath, letting the cool morning air fill her lungs. For the first time, she felt the need to escape the house she had called home for 40 years to find herself again. Anna drove to the home of another close friend, Rose, someone she trusted implicitly. Rose lived in a small house on the outskirts of town, surrounded by fields of lavender. When Anna knocked on the door, Rose opened it with a surprised expression. "Anna? What's going on? Why are you here at this hour?" Rose asked, her voice full of concern. Anna didn't answer right away. She stepped inside, and as Rose closed the door, Anna began to cry. Rose pulled her into a tight embrace, asking no questions, simply letting Anna release all the pain she had been holding inside. "What happened?" Rose asked once Anna had calmed down, guiding her to sit on the sofa. "Tell me everything. I'm here to listen." Anna recounted everything, from the party that had been ruined to the shocking truth about Lucy and Daniel. When she finished, Rose sat in silence for a long moment before taking Anna's hand. "You've been through a tremendous shock, Anna. But you need to think about yourself. Michael was wrong, but do you want to end everything? Or do you need time to decide?" Anna lowered her head, her voice trembling. "I don't know, Rose. I spent my entire life trusting him. Now, everything I believed in has fallen apart." Rose squeezed Anna's hand, her voice gentle yet full of strength. "Anna, no one can make this decision for you. But I believe you're strong enough to find the answer. You don't have to solve everything right away." Anna nodded, but her heart remained heavy. Rose's words brought her a small sense of comfort, but she knew her marriage had been irrevocably changed. Meanwhile, Michael sat alone in the living room, his eyes empty. Raphael entered and placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "Mom needs time, but I think you need to think about what you're going to do next. If you want to save this family, you have to start with the truth." Michael looked up at his son, his eyes filled with regret. "You're right, Raphael. I was wrong. But do you think your mother could ever forgive me?" "That's not for you to decide," Raphael replied, his voice heavy with sorrow. "You have to give her time and space. But you also have to be prepared to face the consequences." Isabella entered, holding a cup of coffee, her smirk still fixed in place. "Michael, it looks like everything is happening just the way you feared. You've lost everything because you didn't have the courage to face the truth." Michael didn't reply. He knew Isabella was right, but her words felt like a knife twisting deeper into an already bleeding wound. Anna spent the day at Rose's house, reflecting on her life and what she wanted to do next. By nightfall, she decided to return home. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew she needed to be strong not just for herself but for her family. The next morning was quiet in Anna and Michael's home, but the atmosphere was far from normal. Anna had returned after a day at Rose's, but the coldness in her gaze toward Michael made him feel the distance between them had never been greater. Michael knew that if he didn't act, he would lose everything. Michael decided it was time to confront Anna and tell her the whole truth, no matter how painful it might be. He walked into the kitchen, where Anna was sitting with a cup of coffee. Teresa, Anna's close friend, was still there to support her. Teresa glanced at Michael but said nothing. Understanding the situation, she quietly left the kitchen, giving the couple some privacy. Michael stood in front of Anna, a heavy weight pressing on his chest. "Anna," he began, his voice trembling. "I know you don't want to hear me, but please, give me a chance to explain." Anna didn't look at him, her eyes fixed on the window. "You think I need an explanation?" "Michael, I've heard enough." Michael sighed, his shoulders slumping. "I understand. But I can't let things end like this. I need to tell you the truth, the whole truth, so you understand." Anna turned to him, her eyes sharp. "Understand? You want me to understand what? That you've hidden another family from me for 40 years? Or that you didn't have the courage to face your past?" Michael lowered his head, his voice cracking. "I don't have any excuse good enough to justify my actions. But please, just listen to me. If you can't forgive me, I'll accept that. I just want you to know the truth." Anna remained silent, but her gaze seemed to say, "Go ahead." Michael took a deep breath and began. "Lucy was my first love, Anna. When I met her, I fell deeply in love, and we shared a happy time together. But then the accident happened. Lucy died in a car crash, and I lost everything. Daniel, my son with her, was just a small child when his mother passed away." Michael paused, trying to hold back his emotions. "Daniel was sent to an orphanage, and I searched for him. But when I learned that he had been adopted by a good family, I thought it was best for him to live a new life, free from the shadows of my past." Anna remained silent, but her eyes were now filled with emotion. Michael continued, "When I met you, Anna, you became the light of my life. I loved you with all my heart. But I didn't have the courage to tell you about my past. I was afraid that if you knew, you wouldn't accept me." Michael knelt before Anna, tears streaming down his face. "I was wrong. I was selfish and cowardly. But I love you, Anna, and I don't want to lose you. Please, give me a chance to make things right." Anna looked at Michael, her heart torn between anger and pain. She thought about their 40 years of marriage, the joys, the struggles, and the love they had shared. Could she forgive Michael, or was this the end of their story? At that moment, Raphael stepped into the kitchen and saw his father kneeling at his mother's feet. "Mom," Raphael said softly, his voice heavy with sadness. "Dad made mistakes, but I believe he truly regrets them. You have to decide what's best for you, but I hope you'll listen to your heart." Anna looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. She didn't say anything, but the coldness in her gaze had softened. She stood up and walked out of the kitchen, leaving Michael and Raphael standing there, silently waiting. Anna stepped outside into the garden, where Teresa was sitting on a wooden bench. "Are you okay, Anna?" Teresa asked, her eyes filled with concern. "I don't know," Anna sighed, sitting down next to Teresa. "Michael told me everything, and I know he regrets it. But how can I move past this?" Teresa took Anna's hand. "You don't have to decide right away. But I know Michael loves you deeply. Maybe you need time to think about what really matters." Anna nodded, but her heart was still in turmoil. She didn't know if she could forgive Michael, but she knew the love they shared hadn't been a lie. The next morning, Raphael sat in his study, a laptop in front of him displaying Daniel's profile. After a night of reflection, he decided that if his father couldn't fix his mistakes, he would try to do it himself. Raphael had searched for information about Daniel as soon as he learned the story from Michael, and he discovered that Daniel was now a doctor in Santa Fe. Raphael hesitated before dialing the number for Daniel's office. His emotions were conflicted: anger at his father, curiosity about the half-brother he had never known. After a few rings, a young woman's voice answered on the other end. This is Dr. Daniel Reyes's office. How can I help you? She asked, her tone professional yet gentle. Raphael took a deep breath. Hello, my name is Raphael. I need to speak with Dr. Daniel Reyes. This is a personal matter, not work-related. The woman hesitated briefly. I'll pass along the message, but the doctor is with patients right now. Can I take your phone number? Raphael gave her his number, thanked her, and hung up. He wasn't sure if Daniel would respond, but he was determined. If Daniel didn't want to talk, Raphael was prepared to go to Santa Fe and meet him in person. That afternoon, while Raphael was preparing a light meal in the kitchen, his phone rang. Seeing an unfamiliar number, his heart skipped a beat. He quickly answered. Hello, this is Raphael, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Hello, this is Daniel Reyes. I just received a message from my office. You said you needed to speak with me. Daniel's voice was deep and polite, though tinged with suspicion. Raphael took another deep breath. Yes, Daniel. I don't know how to say this, but I'm your brother. I know this sounds strange, but I'd like to speak with you in person. There was silence on the other end, long enough to make Raphael uneasy. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice no longer as calm as before. Brother? I think you've got the wrong person. No, I'm not mistaken, Raphael replied quickly. My father is Michael, and from what I've learned, you're his son with Lucy. The mention of Lucy's name caused Daniel to pause. He was silent for a long moment before replying. I need time to think about this. If what you're saying is true, then maybe we should meet. But I can't promise anything right now. Thank you, Raphael said, feeling a slight sense of relief. I'll come to Santa Fe whenever you're ready. 2 days later, Raphael boarded a train to Santa Fe, carrying a mix of tension and hope. He had exchanged messages with Daniel, and the two had agreed to meet at a small cafe near Daniel's clinic. As Raphael entered the cafe, he immediately recognized Daniel, a tall man with dark brown hair and deep-set eyes, strikingly similar to Michael in his youth. Daniel stood as Raphael approached. They shook hands, and in that moment, Raphael felt an inexplicable connection, as though they truly were brothers. Thank you for agreeing to meet me, Raphael said, trying to manage a smile. Daniel sat down, his expression still filled with skepticism. I'm still not sure what to believe. But if you've come all this way, I suppose I should hear what you have to say. Raphael began recounting the entire story from the anniversary party, Isabella's revelations, to Michael's confessions. Daniel listened silently, his eyes growing more pensive as the story unfolded. When my mother passed away, I didn't know much about my father, Daniel said once Raphael had finished. I only have vague memories. After that, I was adopted by a good family, and I never thought about looking for him. Raphael nodded. I understand. But I'm not here to apologize on my father's behalf. I wanted to meet you myself and to say. I'd like for us to have a chance to know each other. Daniel looked at Raphael, his gaze softening slightly. You seem sincere. But I'm not sure I can meet your father, our father. I've built a life without him. Raphael's voice lowered, emotions welling up inside him. I understand how you feel. But Michael, my father, is truly remorseful. He's lived with this pain for 40 years. I think if you can give him a chance, maybe both of you could find some peace. Daniel remained silent, stirring his coffee slowly. I'll think about it. This isn't something I can decide right away. Raphael offered a faint smile. I don't expect you to decide now. Just considering it is enough. The meeting ended with hesitation, but Raphael felt a glimmer of hope. When he returned home, he recounted the conversation to Anna. She listened, her expression softening when she heard that Daniel hadn't completely rejected the idea. Mom, Raphael said, his voice full of hope. I think Daniel is a good man. He needs time, but I believe that if you and Dad meet him, things could change." Anna didn't respond, but a sense of relief settled over her heart. For the first time in days, she thought that perhaps there was a chance for her family to heal. 3 weeks after his meeting with Raphael, Daniel sat at his desk in his clinic, staring at an old photo of his mother Lucy on his phone screen. Inside him was a swirl of emotions: curiosity, anger, and even hope. The conversation with Raphael had stirred memories he thought he had buried. Finally, after days of internal conflict, Daniel decided to meet his father, Michael. He called Raphael. "I'll come," Daniel said curtly. "But I need you to come with me." Raphael couldn't hide his excitement. "I'll be there, Daniel. This is a big step, and I'm so grateful you're willing to do this." 2 days later, at Anna and Michael's house, the atmosphere was filled with anticipation. Michael, though anxious, couldn't hide his emotions knowing Daniel was coming. Anna, though still maintaining some distance from Michael, couldn't deny the sense of nervous excitement. She had thought long and hard and decided to witness the meeting, knowing that Daniel was part of Michael and, by extension, part of her family. When Raphael's car pulled into the driveway, Michael stepped out onto the lawn, his hands trembling. Raphael got out first, then turned to open the car door for Daniel. As Daniel stepped out, Michael froze. The sight of his grown son, bearing such a strong resemblance to Lucy, made his heart ache. Daniel approached Michael, his gaze cautious and searching. "You're Michael, right?" he asked, his voice calm but tinged with tension. Michael nodded, his voice catching in his throat. "Yes. Daniel, my son." Daniel remained silent for a moment, his eyes scanning the emotional face of the man before him. "I didn't come here for pity or accusations. I just want to understand, why did you abandon me?" Michael took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "I never wanted to abandon you, Daniel. When your mother passed away, I was consumed by grief. I looked for you, but when I learned you'd been adopted by a good family, I thought letting you live a new life was the best thing I could do. I was wrong. I should have found you. I should have faced everything." Daniel said nothing, but his gaze softened slightly. "If you truly believe that, why did it take you until now? Why let me live 40 years without knowing anything about you?" Michael lowered his head, tears streaming down his face. "I have no excuse good enough to justify my mistakes. All I know is that I regret them deeply, and I hope you can give me a chance to make amends." At that moment, Anna stepped forward and approached Daniel. "Daniel, I'm Anna, Michael's wife," she said, her voice gentle but filled with sincerity. "I don't know if I have the right to say this, but I want to thank you for coming here. No matter what, you are part of this family." Daniel turned to Anna, his eyes softening. "You're the woman Michael chose to start over with, aren't you?" Anna nodded. "Yes, that's right. But I never knew about your existence until recently. I don't know where this will lead, but I hope we can begin something better." Daniel looked at both Anna and Michael, then turned to Raphael, who stood silently nearby. "Raphael has done a lot to connect me with this family. I think I owe it to him and to myself to try." Michael took a step forward, his eyes filled with hope. "Daniel, I know it's not easy to forgive me. But if you're willing, I want to do whatever it takes to make things right." Daniel sighed, his eyes reflecting both weariness and determination. "I can't say I'll forget everything immediately. But I'm willing to give you a chance." That evening, the family gathered around the dinner table. Teresa, Anna's close friend, was also there to support her. She sat beside Anna and whispered, "You did the right thing by staying to witness this, Anna. This is the beginning your family needs." Anna nodded, though doubt still lingered in her heart. She watched Michael and Daniel sitting across from each other, speaking cautiously but without the tension that had been there before. Raphael sat between them, acting as a bridge to make the conversation feel more natural. Isabella, who had caused all the turmoil, was not present. She had left after realizing that her attempts to divide the family had failed. No one mentioned her, as everyone was focused on rebuilding what had been broken. After dinner, Daniel stood up and addressed the family. "Thank you for welcoming me. I can't promise that everything will be easy, but I think we can try." Michael stepped forward and gently placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. "I know we can't change the past, but I promise to do everything I can to make up for it in the future." Daniel nodded. "I hope so." As everyone left the table, Anna and Michael stood side by side in the kitchen, tidying up. Anna looked at Michael, her gaze softer than before. "I don't know what the future holds, Michael. But today, you did the right thing." Michael smiled, his eyes glistening with tears. "Thank you, Anna. You've always been the light of my life." Anna said nothing more, but for the first time in days, a glimmer of hope began to shine in her heart. This story underscores the importance of honesty in confronting the past, no matter how painful it might be. Secrets and lies don't just hurt others, they leave lingering wounds within ourselves. However, love and forgiveness have the power to heal even the deepest scars, if we are willing to repent and bravely make amends. Family is built not just on blood ties but also on understanding, empathy, and effort. Forgiveness is the first step toward healing and hope.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.